Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hey everyone! Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, innovation by design. Welcome to an Invincible Innovation Live show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Mazor, Kario, innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And today with me, I have Noam Bernstein. Hey, great to see you.
Great to see you.
So Noam is the founder of Design Council Israel and a VP of sales in a startup. Great to see you, Noam.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. It's fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun for sure. From our last talks, I know it's going to be fun. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you are much invited to join the discussion and ask questions, and we would love to see you take part of this discussion. So we can start. So just tell us about the Design Council Israel and why it's so important.
Sure. So Design Council Israel is an initiative to make design and design innovation part of Israel's growth and economic strategy. It's important because Israel innovates a lot, and this is like a national level discussion, but Israel innovates a lot, but the innovation is typically technological. Actually, Israel is known for technological innovation. It exports technological innovation, and it actually doesn't talk about design innovation at all. And in these times, adding another toolkit to innovation is critical for more added value. It's also about global competitiveness, but it's also about dispersing the value of technology to more people in Israel. So that's why it's important. And design innovation, I can talk a lot, of course, and we probably will. But basically, it's about being inclusive, and it's about including more people in the innovation process. It's also about different methodologies and things we'll talk about. And when I try to imagine the success of this kind of design council, I kind of imagine an Israeli Steve Jobs meeting an Israeli Hartmut Esslinger, which is the founder of Frog Design, which was the first designer that Steve Jobs worked with, and actually having like this dance of giants, this tango of giants, right? And we all know Steve Jobs had an affinity for design.
He studied it.
Oh, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, what we don't know as much about, usually most people who aren't designers don't know about Hartmut Esslinger and Frog Design. But basically, right. These two met. It took two to tango, and that's what a design council is, to meet. Hartmut Esslinger was ready for this strategic design conversation with Steve Jobs, and that's what the designers in Israel need to be ready for. And then the technologists need to be like a Steve Jobs that's willing to play this game. So that's the idea.
Right. Right. It's like collaborating, a different way of thinking, actually, because if somebody comes from tech, from the technology itself, and doesn't see any value in design, and it's only the final finish of his ideas, he could not really benefit from all the added values he could get from working with a good designer.
Absolutely.
And I really see it like for most of my years in career, I worked with design in big tech companies and in startups. And I see that in many cases, they see it as like the final layer of the cake. It's just how it looks. And design is not only about how it looks. It's much more than that. So it's so important.
And I think it's a two-way street. So I think we need to, in order to squash the stereotypes of design, which is a quote from a design researcher, to do that, it's actually the designers also need to step up, right? So I think that's part of it. That's why I'm talking about strategic design, because it's about learning to be more strategic about design, ask more strategic questions, and respect the domain of strategy as a designer. So that's part of it.
Right. I totally agree that even I would say majority of designers see themselves as part of doing something which is more really making something tangible, and not thinking about the strategy and business layer, because it's not their job, it's not their position, and they should re-sketch their role in order to take this into their capabilities and skills and what they think they should do within their role. So as I see it, in most cases, they will not get it. So it's not like most people will not desire, say, okay, we need a designer, we will hire him to do strategy.
Right.
But But if they understand that this is what could be done, they should take these parts and be like sit in the table of who is like in the stakeholders table and take part in that, and not only in
For sure.
the
It's also knowledge and it's also a mindset. And I think, part of a major half of the design council work is internally with designers, to grow and mentor and empower design leaders to be strategic design leaders and business savvy, and be able to have those conversations.
Sure. So what do you think design is so important in the strategy level of innovation?
So, I was thinking about that, and any sentence that has like design, strategy, and innovation needs a little bit of like unpacking, right? So I think first thing to say is that each of these is a domain, right? So if we're imagining like a Venn diagram, right, of strategy and innovation and design, then each of them has a world that's not overlapping. So strategy has this world of M&As, and strategy has this world of technological strategy, etc. And then innovation has a world that's not overlapping with or maybe not overlapping strategy. And of course, design has a whole world of design that's not necessarily about innovation. It could be cultural. And I think when we're talking about strategic innovation by design, we're trying to look at enlarging the overlaps, right? We're trying to get strategists to understand designers, designers to understand strategists, and understand the special perspectives of each of them about this point of view. And I think so. So I think that that's the first point, is respecting the domain. There's domain knowledge, and we don't. Sometimes we think designers can design anything, right? Come in and just like, wow, we're gonna wow the box. And I think it's really important to know that you need to respect domain knowledge, because in the end, design is about really doing things. We were just talking about this, right?
Yeah, executing.
You need to. It's not about just about a process. It's about understanding the domain content very, very well. So that's a point.
Yeah, as I see it, you need to take an idea, which is something that somebody thought in his mind, and to create something tangible out of it, which is a capability that only a designer, mainly in the team, could do. From something which is,
and I think there are tons of creative people, right? And so we'll look at and creative people are everywhere. Design doesn't own creativity.
Right. I totally agree.
I think there's creative technologists, there's creative engineers, and actually there's a lot of creativity, especially in Israel, a lot, and everywhere a lot. So I think we need to kind of like stop trying to split the pie and start trying to grow the pie and say, what can we learn from each other? So that's also part of a design approach, that you understand as a designer that you can learn from anybody. But of course, part of what design contributes to, now let's talk about strategic innovation, right? So strategic innovation is really, we think every innovation should be strategic, but it so often happens that there's misalignment between company strategy and innovation. So, and this is like I guess we're in a decade of talking about like innovation management and so forth.
Right.
But if it's not on the business strategy, and I studied strategy also, right? So I studied design 20 years ago, and then strategy 10 years ago. If innovation isn't on the business strategy, and it's not on KPIs that real business units can use, then it's somewhere it's going to get stuck. And I think that happens a lot, and design can't fix that, right?
No,
so that
of course.
Strategic innovation before design comes in. So strategic innovation is having I call it very pinpointed, or very sharp, very identify the areas that you want to innovate and why you're doing that, etc. Design comes into that and can help that. Design can come in and can visualize the whole process, right? So it can make more clarity, because one of the risks of innovation doesn't have to do with the market or the technology. It's just about people misunderstanding what the goal is, or people not having a real debate, about what's going on. And design really helps to visualize. And design also helps understand the need, right? So we talk about empathy. We talk about empathy to many players, which are sometimes contradictory in their demands. So actually, usually design has a lot of paradoxical thinking, right? So being able to balance friction and find solutions that are holistic to contradictory opinions. So I think that's also an important perspective of design.
Yeah, I totally agree that sometimes companies, they do have a strategy for their business, but it's not an innovation strategy. And within innovation strategy, what would be the future of your company, where you're going, what are the decisions that will take you there? Within this, how could design help you create better future, better decisions, better, like how can you understand what's the right way to go? So in the past, it was like my gut feeling is this is where I go to. And today, because design enables us, and in general, like lean startups and lots of other methods could allow us to experiment. And design could help really create something tangible and validate that we are on the right track. And once you do that, you have less risk and you're de-risking your business, because it's all about the unknown. Innovation is the unknown, and you need to handle this unknown with some kind of a technique, because you don't want to bet on something which is the wrong way, I would say.
And there's a myth about design that it's it's ego and it's like finding the right designer and like having a show and like this out of the box surprise. And I think that myth also needs to be busted. I think and also design should be working much more with data. Right today, data is everywhere, and we have access to it. So design and designers should be thinking how their process generates data to validate assumptions. And this could go from understanding what kind of inspirations to take using data and using like similar buyers, and all the way to using early mock-ups and prototypes to validate, which is, of course, a very clear strategic design by innovation methodology, is to test things way before the MVP, right?
Yeah.
That's part of our lives.
Yeah. Right? So it's not only testing, as I see it, you need to really make sure that you fail really fast. And in order to do so, you need to test it out really fast. And you need to, as I see it, the purpose of these experiments is to fail. If you could you want to validate or devalidate. I think the devalidation is much, much more important, because you don't bet on things that are wrong.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. If you don't bet on things that are wrong, then you're probably not taking enough risk when the environmental risk, has risen because of COVID.
We have one of our viewers. He talks about product and service design is one of the essential part of a success innovation process, with always a bit unknown outcomes. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So
agree. That's a huge thing. I've been a designer in-house. I've been a consultant designer, and I've been a customer of design. And taking these different perspectives, I've seen that there's a huge level of unknown when you hire a designer. And
always.
Everybody's, there's ability to describe the processes, and very often the processes are quite similar in their description, but still you have no idea what's going to come out. And I think one of the things that's a place I think that technology can really help. I think if technology could build better briefs, right, by using big data and pulling public information up and showing inspirations and which ones are the ones to qualify and which ones to disqualify early, I think the process could be much less unknown. That again is also two-way street. Customers expect design to be like a quick process,
sure,
and not even a process. Just they want the result.
Yeah, they just want the result. They don't see the process at all. For them, it could be that it's easy to take a designer. It depends on what you expect from him. So if you just look at his portfolio and see, oh, I like the way that he uses the colors and fonts and whatever. So it's easy, because you can expect more or less the same level of skill and talent in your outcomes. But if you expect more than that, which is like understanding your users, understanding the use cases, understanding further what should you do with your technological abilities, how can you create this product market fit, which is exactly what you need to do. It doesn't matter if you're a startup or want to reinvent your product or want to create a new product in an established company. it's always this fit. And since everything is changing, you always need to reinvent it a bit more in order to make it fit all the time.
Right.
So in order to do that, you cannot just change the colors.
Absolutely.
It's not working this way.
I think there's an opportunity. Definitely, I think in Israel, and it's happening in a lot of places else. I think there's an opportunity for better questions. Better questions early up front, and better understanding that the term design could be the tactical design, right? That step that just does the colors, which is super important for loving a product, and loving a product is super important for adoption, friction, and all the way up to designing company culture. I mean, this is like the top step of strategic design is having the company designed, having the involving design in the employee experiences, in onboarding. So that's like the top level of strategic design, having a VP design, etc.
Yeah. And what are the biggest obstacles for innovation as you see it?
Well, I think from there's all kinds of obstacles for innovation, but I think since humans are doing innovation, and innovation is typically has an early beginning, which is very fuzzy. I think there's like this impatience in the fuzzy front end, which is causing to shortcut processes, right? So I think some people are very comfortable with ambiguity and uncertainty, and they thrive, and I think designers are often those that see opportunity in ambiguity, and very often business owners who see time being money and want concrete decisions, like dislike this area in the beginning of processes. And I think as a result of that, they avoid, or all of us in a way, avoid doing some of the strategic thinking that takes less time once you start it. So I think starting very structured is really what stops innovation from succeeding. And the reason it happens, I think, is because people feel uncomfortable until they're working on a product, right? They're always like saying, when are we on the product? When are we on the solution? No, wait.
When do you see something? I want to see it.
Right. And that's everyone. That's the investors, right? They don't want to see. You don't want to see a pitch deck with a problem. I mean, it has to be there, but you want to get to the solution and the technology slide. And it goes all the way to everybody else saying, okay, we saw the product. We saw the problem. Let's go to the product. We spend 10% of time on the problem and 90% of the time on the solution. And that's also why VCs like Andreessen Horowitz say, go work on product market fit and understand the problem better. So I think that's the main obstacle to good innovation, is understanding problems.
Yeah, I think that we have a LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us. And he writes really what you're saying. I think it's not all technology. It's about generation of value for future users. So if for me, fancy web design is not all over solution. Design can be the booster and essential to get things quickly in front of you. So it's an extreme value to see something tangible, which is what we're talking about. So thank you, LinkedIn user.
Agree, and not just about users. All stakeholders. I think there's this B2B are humans too. B2B buyers are humans too. And I think when you use design to understand the problems that B2B stakeholders have. And it's like it could be B2B to C, or it could be B2B to B. It could be within a value chain. But if you understand the value chain and you understand the problems of your customers, then you're adding value.
Yeah, in general, I think that design is done from empathy, from understanding the stakeholders, understanding who's creating what and who are we creating for. And it could be the client, it could be the user. They don't have to be the same person, and it could be everyone around who's like creating and creating creativity and solutions to what we're doing. And as a designer, you need to be like navigating through and matching all of that together, and creating a solution that fits the needs of everyone. So there are business needs and people from the business side, and there are the other side, like the sales and customers needs and the user in the end. And it's all things that you need to address when you do it. Like sometimes when I do designs, they tell us, okay, this is what the users needs, but our salespeople want to show it to the one who is like writing the check. and maybe they will not use it, but they want to see results. And sometimes it's very high level dashboards and things that are seldom used, but it's very important for the business, and still they need it. So you need to take that into considerations, right?
Yep.
And talking about uncertainty, we're going to our next question. So why do you see innovation affected by this COVID crisis and all the uncertainty and unknowns that it brings?
Absolutely. I think it's affected in different ways. So, COVID is well, I guess stepping back a moment, I was with the Design It last year, and when COVID hit, we started looking at innovation globally, because there was offices globally, and tracking the mindsets of business owners are affected by this. And it was really an interesting process, because there were offices all over the world, so things were happening at different times and different severity in different places.
Right.
And so, there's some major things that happened. So first thing, there's this huge rift between digital companies, like software companies, and everybody else. So software companies have basically been able to weather this storm, or even leverage this storm to grow further. And then some companies have been able to adapt and move on, and many haven't. Small and medium-sized businesses, were suffering. And being creative or taking risks when you're pressured by like the bottom of the pyramid of Maslow's pyramid, having money to take home, or unemployment, etc., is very difficult. So rethinking or being innovative when you're worried about your cash flow is very difficult. So that's one thing that's happened to innovation, is that the big getting bigger and the small getting smaller. On the other hand, what's been, I think, really interesting is there's this, and this is kind of from the angle of design, there's been this reconnection of the fabric of community with businesses. So obviously some businesses have not chosen to do anything for the communities they're living in, but many businesses have realized that employees at home mean families, and families mean kids, and kids mean education, and et cetera. And there's been this interesting involvement, some companies involved in things beyond the bottom line for shareholders.
Although I just need to cut you here, because they understand that if they don't get employees involved in their culture, in like do something for them, they might not be interested. They don't go to the same work and in the same offices, and they're not working together as always, and they don't get the added value, like a coffee machine and all the things that are related to work in Amazon, whatever. So you need to get their attention and get their engagement with the brand and with what they're doing. And one part you could do that is to take into consideration what they're doing right now, which is staying at home in their home office and being with the kids.
Right. And I fully agree with you. And Gen Z makes choices about employment with resonance between the brand values and the personal values, and that's an important point that's happened. So you look at that and you see companies, figuring very much needing to focus their innovation. You can't not innovate in this situation. Actually, there's been more creativity going on, because suddenly the ground is shifted, and it creates a lot more openness to creativity. But you really need to start being much more accurate. And I think that's where being strategic and having design work well together, because being strategic means choosing where to be accurate, and using design means being able to validate risky steps, like we spoke for earlier, before making big investments. And that combination is even more valuable post-COVID.
Sure. So let's go into like the details. Give us a use case from what you know about how did strategy by design help a company grow.
So I've actually like two stories that are actually taking it each from a different direction. One takes a strategic insight and brings design into it for success, and one takes a design insight and brings it into strategy for success. So in one case, many years ago, I was doing a research project. I was working at Stanley Black & Decker in Israel, and we were in the States doing research, and we were on a job site. And the reason we were doing research was for new products. It had to do with tool bags. I was a tool bag designer, low tech, and we were at a job site, and it was the afternoon. And the contractor, was in his overalls, and he was working on the floor and on the ceiling and everything. And suddenly he looks at his watch and said, "Okay, day's over." And he walks out, of the job site, and he changes clothes into Levi's jeans and Nike Air Jordans and his BlackBerry, which is new. And he walks over to his clean white F-150 Ford pickup truck. And as observing this as design researchers, we said, wait a second, this guy is surrounded by brands, and some of them are sport brands. And he understands the value of good products that are branded. So maybe the way of looking at tool bags needs to change. And this kind of observation led to an hypothesis that we could create a new price point for these tool bags. And these tool bags were sold through mass channels, or like Lowe's and Home Depot, and the price points were very much negotiated. So having this kind of hypothesis was really, risky.
Right.
But together with the product manager, we created a design language that was more sport, like professional, not too designed, because it is, after all, men and job sites, but the higher price point, combining functionality, and that worked. So that was one way.
Yeah. I think that in general, when you go and really meet these people, that like in most tech companies, most people who work on these products never met the person who uses that. So maybe someone from support, someone from sales, someone from maybe customer care, they meet these people. But most of the people who work, maybe from the R&D, they never met this kind of like going outside of the building, and meeting these people. And once you really get into understanding them and really see who they are, it's the only way to really create something which is a quality that they value. And without that, you can not really understand them.
Agreed. And I think today I meet a lot of companies, and I think today people understand all over the organization that they're closing the loop with customers or potential users is important, and then it becomes being professional about it, right? What are you looking for? Do you have enough hypotheses? Are you in discovery mode or validation mode? Those are the kind of things that are important. And the other example I wanted to give was I was doing a strategy project with students from Wharton and IDC about online poker and how gaming on tablets and phones is affecting that market. And so when we started the research from a strategy point of view, we realized that gaming, like casual gaming on mobile devices, and this was about 6-7 years ago, is actually 50% men and 50% women. So it's really equal. There's no difference. But online poker was actually virtually no women played. And so this was for some people, this was like, this is what's going on. This is the market. No women play online poker. But as a strategist, say why not? Women play poker offline. We checked. Women don't play poker. Women play games online. What's going on? So that strategic insight that there's an opportunity pool that isn't being used led to research and meeting and interviewing women and learning why they don't play online for a number of reasons, and then crafting a concept board of how a poker game online would be that would protect early adopters, or learning phase, might not be anonymous to prevent sharks from playing in the game. It's all kinds of things like that, and actually validating that in the process. So that was, and the CEO of the company said that was the most strategic part of the project in retrospect. Yeah.
I think that in general, people think about getting data from what they gather for the technology. So products managers and technology leaders, they get lots of data from the software, but
right.
They cannot really understand what's the meaning of that without really doing some quantitative data analysis. They need to go and meet these people and observe them and talk to them and really interview them and see what they're doing in order to understand why. Like know that the numbers, but you don't know why. Why did these women decide not to work in this platform or in this situation? Right. And only once you understand that, you can create a solution for that. So I see it in many cases, especially in Israel. In Israel, like don't talk too much. Don't talk about strategy. Let's go. Tachlis, let's do the thing, and just to make them value that we can solve something, but maybe we're solving the wrong thing. Maybe we're not asking the right questions, and then we get the answers that we want to hear. That's it. So once they see that in that example, and you can see it all over, and people are working in research, they always say they are surprised with their results. Even if they know the customers, they always get surprised with what people tell them. Because if you want to really understand people, you need to be like into listening and understanding what's that and what's all about. So I love that story.
Absolutely.
So what's your number one tip for innovation leaders?
So I'd say diversify your team, right? I'd say add a designer. That's like number one. But but basically have different views. You're feeding your understanding of the situation. Just diversify your team. Have an experienced technologist. Have an experienced salesperson. Have an experienced somebody from private equity. But they all have to love playing together, right? From finance, whatever. But diversify your team, and then you'll have more creativity.
Yeah, I think it's not only diversifying the team, is making sure they talk the same language and they know how to collaborate and co-create together. Because someone from finance, he says like, I'm taking care of the finance. That's my part. I'm not sure I need to work with a designer, to get my ideas. If you want to ask me, that's fine. But do they know how to do a game with all of these players together? And appreciate what is the part that each one of them could deliver to this process.
Absolutely.
And you see
culture of respecting each domain and creating an overlap, and also actually removing all of the jargon, right? Making things simple. User acquisition. No, the user decided to pay, right? That's a kind of thing. Like let's use really simple terms to bridge these domains.
Yeah, I think that it's the people, of course, it's all these people who create this new way of thinking and new creative ideas and innovation. But I think it's what you said about strategy. So you need to invest the time and resources in order to allow this collaboration. And how do you incentivize it? Because if I get paid to do that, and now you're asking me to do other things, like, is it part of my role? Is this what I'm getting paid for? And you see, even from the CEO level, the board is asking him about the next quarter, and that's it. In the next quarter, we need to get results. He doesn't ask him about like 2 or 3 years from now, will we have our next product even?
And I think when I mean diversify the team, it's not just to make it more creative. You bring somebody from finance into an innovation team because they understand that having validation in 1 year is much more risky than having validation in 6 months. And they understand that spending $300,000 on a project is much more expensive than doing 6 early validations of $50,000 each. And I think this kind of you can't bring in people and then make them all like ideation people, because ideation isn't the only step in innovation.
Sure.
You really follow it through. Bringing an operations person in, bringing in a manufacturing person in, and having them bring that DNA and teach the team, how it feels.
Yeah, I think that many people think about innovation and creativity about ideation, but actually there are so many great ideas, but they don't get executed in many cases. And I see it like if I've done lots of workshops and design sprints, and you see everything is like everyone is passionate and they have great ideas, but in the end it needs to be executed. Right. And if you don't get everyone involved while the process is there, and bring people from finance, from C-level, bring people from support, bring everyone there, so they could be part of it and get their buy-in. So it's so important. If you don't do that, you have a great idea, but it stays on your drive.
Yeah, and constraints as well. I think people say, designers don't give them constraints. You've got an open slate, like a carte blanche, open a white page.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You want it to become real, you need to have constraints, and constraints make it creative. Bring constraints, constrain it until the opportunity is tiny, and then have everybody go through that opportunity and find the value. I think constraints are critical.
Yeah, I think that people imagine that they're so creative and they have their ideas and they're not connected to down to earth. but I don't see it this way. So I work with so many designers, and I'm myself come from design, and I always think that once you know what you are creating and who is it for, it's the ground that you need to go back to all the time. And if you don't go back to it, the result will never be something that people would love and buy, and the value will not be so important. And last thing, I don't know if it's the same LinkedIn user or not, because we don't have the name, but we're talking about diversity in a team. Yeah. It's a key factor. Yeah, so thank you, LinkedIn user, and then for taking the time and being engaged. So we're almost done. If somebody would like to ask you a question, to contact you, where could they find you?
So LinkedIn is the best way. Reach out and ping me, and I'm happy to talk. I use LinkedIn extensively. I use it for business, and so fine.
Yeah, so it's been a pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed our talk, and it's always fun to talk. So thank you for your time, Noam.
You're welcome. It was fun.
It was fun. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining us. I'll see you next week or in invincibleinnovation.com, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.